help out and, do whatever I can do for them in return, just because I feel that one good deed deserves another.
We're addressing the urban Aboriginal community, which is quite high in Sault Ste. Marie. However, we don't just stop at that population. I mean, we take mainstream people as well.
Aboriginal spirituality is used as a means of helping those cope with and face the often deeply buried pain associated with poverty and homelessness.
It's good to know about different cultures and whatnot. I sat in a circle today for the first time, and it gave me that uplifting. And I did my first smudge yesterday, and it felt like all the down are lifted up, So this is a good place to come to. They're more than willing to help anybody and everybody.
Poverty is not the only cause of homelessness. Many women fleeing abuse become homeless and seek refuge at Women in Crisis.
It's Women in Crisis, and what it is, it's a shelter for women who are fleeing abusive relationships. We do education and awareness in the community. We have a 24-bed facility, so women and children can come and stay here. Sometimes you get women that are in their 50s or 60s and don't have the labor force experience. So they just haven't worked in the paid labor force because they have a lot of amazing skills. So the thing is for them to learn to maximize those. But then the other issue is, who in the community is going to hire a 55-year-old woman who stayed home all her life and raised her children? It's really hard. It's really hard to go back out there on your own. We see a lot of women that go back to the abusive partners, and for, a million and one reasons why. But, one reason that we're hearing a lot of is because of the poverty. Women, once they find out how much they're going to be living on to support them and their children, they oftentimes say, no, I can put up with the abuse. It's easier to have some money, A lot of people say to me, oh, it must be hard working in that kind of a field. The reality is that it's not, because the way I look at it is when the women flee the abuse and come here, they've left it. That's a wonderful thing. We're happy to have them and to be able to work with them. But it's then to help them to maintain not going back or making changes in their own lives to help them to have a better life. There's a lot of women that come through here that go back to school. Like we see a lot of women that will go to college or to university or also to adult education to upgrade. So that's something that we would hook them up with, but then they would continue to do that after they leave here.
Women in Crisis specifically caters to women fleeing abuse, and for this reason offers a high level of security. Many shelters in larger cities such as Toronto do not offer the same degree of security.
There was no way any of us would ever stay in shelters because it was a place that was more feared than sleeping in a park.
I remember one time I was staying in a shelter called Satan's House. Well, not Satan's House, but another men's shelter in downtown Toronto. It was pretty horrible staying there. Homeless guys didn't want to stay in shelters because they're scared to get robbed or beat up or, get shanked at night and, or lose their shoes at night, and they have to walk bare feet, that's pretty scary.
Unlike Toronto, Sault Ste. Marie's Vincent Place Men's Shelter offers a safer environment, and this is reflected in the physical layout and the relationship between staff and guests.
I was in the hospital for about 3 months, and that's when everything started to go downhill. I lost my job, and I was taking medication. My back was sore again, so I started taking prescription drugs, and it's just like a rippling effect, And somebody had mentioned the St. Vincent Place, and I didn't know what it was all about, so I gave a call first before I came over, and the people were really pleasant on the phone, and it was like really surprising, and what is it? It's a shelter. Well, I had the idea of a shelter being, like a real rough place. People with limbs are off and drug addicts, a real false picture of what this place was supposed to be like.
Yeah, average stays here about 2 or 3 weeks. And in that time, it's nice for the guys to rest up, to get a bit of a brain break, and just relax. And they're fed well here, and really, you know, I mean, we get them to help us out a little bit, but it's more of just to, you know, just to take a bit of a break. You know, and then slowly get them back out looking for a place to live, seeing if they want to go back to work, or if they were working, get back to their job, or say a guy has some mental health issues, you know, we can work with mental health organizations in town, or addiction problems.
There's basketball outside in the back, and winter floor hockey, some race play ping pong, some don't, cards, everything, man. Make them feel wanted, that they are somebody, that we are special. You know, we're not just discarded people.
Like just getting that extra support there to help me through the situation, like, you know, it was always there. I could depend on that, you know, and it really helped me out a great deal.
Because of the ties that we have with the staff, they make you feel like you're the only one in the room when they're working with you. You know, you're not just a number to them. When you come back, they say, "Hi, Ed," or "Hi, Joe," "Hi, Mike." It's not, "Hello."
Most of the guys are very grateful that they came through this, and it helped them out. And something like this in this town is needed. It was recognized that it was needed years ago, so they've initiated it now. Of course, it would be nice to get more funding, say from government, core funding, that kind of thing. That would be good for this place.
I don't know what I would have done. I can't turn back time or look at the past, but, you know, I don't know what I would have done then.
But there's always going to be people that are going to have a bum ride, or whether they cause the problem themselves or it's out of their control. You're always going to need some kind of a setup like this, you know, in any town.
People like Ed, who use shelters and services that address homelessness, are aided in their search for affordable housing. Once housed, many face the new challenge of surviving on next to nothing.
Well, I was living in an apartment that I'd been living in before, and my rent was $350. I had bills on top of that, and the maximum allowance for a single person is $520, and you don't get anything on top of that if you're pregnant. Or so after my bills, it worked out to about $70 a month that I was living on.
We know the reality is that the amount of money you get is this much, and the cost of living is this much, like because the Conservative government had cut in Ontario here 21.6% off of welfare. The Liberal government has reinstated 3%. Like, there's a discrepancy there. We're not even up to, you know, the cost of living anymore. It's extreme poverty for people.
I was basically told by my worker, you know, they couldn't help me out with anything extra. If I should just move into a cheaper place, but you can't find a place cheaper than that.
Women are able to sometimes access geared to income housing. Not always, though, especially a single woman. There's not a lot of one-bedroom apartments that are geared to income, and those that are, people get in them and they stay in them and they don't leave, so that's a real big issue. Bigger families seem to have easier access into those bigger places.
I want to give my daughter the best life possible, but it's really hard when you have no extra money and you know, you have to scrape just to get by, just to get food in her belly.
If people are living in market rent and they pay high accommodation costs, they don't have enough money for food. If they buy food, they don't have enough money for rent. Or they don't have enough money to pay their heating bill. You know, something's going to give.
The reality for single mothers, if you did a research, which many researches have been done, majority of single moms do not stay on the system for very long. They stay on it for short periods of time and they eventually get off. Either they get into new relationships, they get education, they get jobs, but it seems to simply be a transition for them, the social assistance system. And I mean, I can speak from experience. I left an abusive relationship 13 years ago. I was married for 10 years to an abusive man. I had 3 children. I needed to rely on the system because, first of all, he didn't pay his child support. I had no income coming in. I had gotten laid off from my job. I went back to school. I got my university degree. Here I am working, and I have a career, and I'm supporting myself. All of my kids are, you know, have gone through post-secondary education themselves. Like, you know, there's success stories out there. People aren't on the system because they want to be. It's not a friendly system. We don't want to be on it, but it's there at times when we need it. And it needs to be there. It needs to be improved, but it needs to be there for people.
Pauline's Place, a youth shelter that recently opened youth citizens, such as Arlene, to determine how the shelter would be run. In the past, social agencies would have never asked homeless people their perspective on what was needed due to stigmas surrounding the poor and homeless.
I'm not involved with it anymore. I was involved in the beginning process stages of setting it up. They wanted to have citizens at large on the board and people that lived in poverty, because it was mostly people from agencies. So I helped give a spin on what someone that came off the streets would want.
I was living with a couple friends for about 3 weeks. I just came in 3 days ago, actually, and I woke up to a lovely note before I went to school, and it said, "We would like if you were moved out by tomorrow." So I kind of just went, huh? You know? I'm like, this is not good, because I've ran out of options, because ever since January I've been staying with friends here and there.
I separated from an ex, and I went to WIC, which is Women in Crisis, and stayed there for 7 weeks, and then ended up coming here.
My teacher asked me what was wrong, and I told her the situation. Her and the vice principal at the school where I do co-op at helped me out. They got me in here, so I was really happy to know that I had a place to go.
There was guys staff as well as guys residents, and I was just, like I say, I just separated from an ex, so it was very much, I didn't want to be in the same house as guys. And then when I came, the atmosphere is like totally neat. It's like a big, huge family kind of.
We've tried to make it a more of a home-like setting. The room is, painted in a bright color. When a resident comes in, they can, put out some of their personal belongings to make it feel a little bit like it's their own home.
It's neat to see the transformation from when people first come to when they leave, or when you leave, and or even 2 weeks later. I mean, I think it was very much true for myself too. I mean, when I first came here, I was totally in the adult mode because I've grown up fairly quickly. And now I'm actually able to laugh and act like a teenager all over again, and it's like experiencing a teenagerhood that I missed out, kind of.
This is like one of the greatest places I've actually lived since I've been here in the Sioux. Very well taken care of. Things are set out for people to do every day. Have your chores done by a certain time, then you can be free for the rest of the night.
What we do here is a living skill. And giving them support. But that doesn't mean that we'll ignore issues if they have conflict with their peers here, or if they're talking about conflict in their family relationships. We'll problem solve to some extent with them.
Actually, this just recently happened last night. I came in with a problem, something that really upset me, and kind of had like this breakdown when I walked in the door, and one of the workers asked me if I wanted to talk about it, and I said sure. It was really helpful though, because after I talked to them, I felt a lot better. And
this is the only place that I know that is like this in the Sioux, and if they had more than one, I'm pretty sure they would be filled up quite quickly as well. So it's just, I mean, here they're only allowed, their capacity is 8 people, and there's more than 8 people out there who need a place to go. And in all honesty, for Pauline, if it weren't for here, I probably would have gone absolutely insane, because I wouldn't have had a place to go. I mean, Women in Crisis would have kept me for a couple of weeks longer, but after that it was like I don't know where I would have gone. And I mean, over the past month and a half, it's totally changed my perspective on things.
Jess moved out to rejoin her family the week after this interview, and while Christine looks to a positive future, agencies rely upon each other to prevent and cure homelessness.
We do work together, and I don't know if that happens in other communities or not. I know that St. Vincent de Paul will come here sometimes to get supplies for their soup kitchen.
Having those collaborations really helps us to be able to make it a smoother run for women who are leaving here.
Silos have been broken down, so that organizations now understand that it's a win-win situation when they work together. Again, talking about a caring community, the manager at Tim Hortons has often fed homeless people there who get off the bus at 2 and 3 in the morning, and they don't know where to go.
We get a lot of people that will do donations, maybe somewhere in their life something like this happened to them too, and they want to give back. Or
it is amazing to me when you look at these 2 shelters who started from the ground up, and how the community did come together.
That's one of the things I like about the Sioux is even in the worst times, the steel point can go down and they'll rally together to pull up because that's a job that a few thousand people need.
Like, I'm 16, so, you know, it's, a lot of people are like, wow, that's really young. Well, yeah, but, you know, so far I've been out on my own since August, and I'm doing all right. I'm still alive, you know, still doing things that are important, like going to school. Most people would be like, if I was out on my own at that age, I wouldn't be in school, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't do things I wouldn't have to do on my own. It's like, you want to go and get your education so you can get it done and over with and get a decent job. Like, that's my main goal right now, is to get a decent job that I can live off of for the rest of my life, which is why I continue to go to school.
Remember that all the kids and the folks that are out there in the bigger cities, that they come from communities like these, and if we don't, we have to start working on the problems here.
The challenges that the homeless face will not go away until the general public realize that their wealth is inevitably connected to someone else's poverty.
I don't want to perpetuate the cycle of poverty. I want to give her a new norm. I want to give her self-esteem and know that she can be whatever she wants to be. She doesn't have to just settle for, just because she happened to be born to a mother who is on welfare for the time being. That's not what she has to do. And
if I lost my job tomorrow, within about 2-3 months, you know, you don't pay your mortgage payments, you don't have a home, you don't have a vehicle anymore, you could find yourself in exactly the same situation. And it's really a scary position, I think, for people to be in.
It can happen to anyone. No one chooses to be like that, to be in those positions. Seen a lot of amazing people go. And you know, like at any time, like it could be you, it could be your mother, it could be your kid.
It's an everyday thing. There are a lot of people out there that have no place to go, and if you see them, don't frown upon it, because it's not like it was their decision.
People because they smoke, not judging them because they have a hang-up of some kind, but just to understand, you know, I mean, they're trying the same as everybody else is trying to make ends meet.
I can't do it. My department can't do it. They all have to work together to make it happen. And we have. And we will continue to do that.
When I take a look around at everything in this world that is constantly changing, the people them are always fighting about the same thing again and again and again. People, we are one, and I know that it's easier said than done, but we have to come together, we have to overcome, 'cause Babylon will try to take we down. I know some people kill for fun, but positive movements hold number one. 'Cause once you pull the trigger and kill your brother, man, mean say you kill yourself, do you understand? The government and the media make the people fight in the city, yeah. Confuse their mind, chaos within, and the people at the top just agree. 'Cause it's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Babylon, I laugh, let them feel say it's a funny thing. It's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Like them, no know say it a cause they love the warranting. It's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Babylon, I laugh, let them feel say it's a funny thing. It's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Like them, no know say it a cause they love the warranting. Ignorant minds need to change with the times. Too many people walking blind. Babylon, I'm asking you now from the bottom of my heart, stop sneaking up from behind. And when you kill it, say it's not a crime. Still you lock up a man for your dime. I know you got nothing to say, 'cause that was the plan from long time. It's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Babylon, I laugh, let them feel say it's a funny thing. It's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Them not know say it a cause they love the warranting. It's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Babylon, I laugh, let them feel say it's a funny thing. It's a money thing, I tell you, it's a money thing. Like them, no know, say it a cause I love the war and thing.